Serhan in Uruguay, I wish I knew exactly how to say Uruguay, writes to me and he says, "Hey Paul, I keep hearing you talk about climate and the crisis. What was it that inspired the books? Was it Climate Crisis? How long have you been working on these books?" Well, yeah, it was. I started working on the books Eemians about 10 years ago. And it's when I first became concerned about the looming climate crisis that is coming our way. And I started doing some research into it and had some ideas. One of the ideas that I had way back when was about fusion. And we've talked about this before. So fusion, as opposed to fission, is how energy is generated. So in a nuclear reactor, we have fission, which is the atoms break apart and they release all their energy and a whole bunch of other nasty stuff at the same time. This uranium that's, they have to bury in these things for half-life of, God knows how long. And yeah, nuclear is a way to go, but the best way to go, and I've been an advocate of this for, 15 years or so, and certainly heavy into it 10 years ago, was fusion. So fusion is what powers the sun, the universe, everything. It's clean, but it's really hard to do here on Earth, and I'll tell you why. So fusion is what happens when atoms fuse together, they release all this energy. So on the sun, you've got, I think, helium and hydrogen, mostly hydrogen, and the sun has so much mass, which means it has a lot of gravity, and that pulls the hydrogen atoms together and they fuse, and we have sunlight. And it's great. There's no problems with it. If we could do that on Earth, we would solve our energy problems. And I'm not going to get too going onto it, but it's very difficult. And when I started this project, almost nobody was funding anything for fusion. It just seemed so obvious to me that this is the way to go. Why aren't we putting all of our resources into figuring out and helping scientists solve the problem of fusion? So I thought, I will write a book, and not about fusion, because who's going to read that? Only nerds like me are interested in stuff like that, right? So I thought, well, the best way to write a book that might have an impact on people and get them to say, hey, fusion is something that I would support, and make them aware of it, you do it in the form of a novel. Okay? So that's what started this whole thing out. And yeah, we have a climate crisis coming, and that climate crisis, and it wasn't until I started writing the book, which had a very different format. It was about modern day people, and this one group was secretly trying to do fusion and take over the world and the oil supplies. And at that time, the series was called The Carbon Wars, and that now is the name of book 3, so you can see how it's morphed a whole bunch. But during that time, I was researching and just, talking to professors and scientists, and I just did a lot of work on it, and discovered that there was this period in Earth history called the Eemian, where, and this is where the story started growing, like, this is really strange. Modern man appears 120,000 years ago, and by modern man, I mean Homo sapiens, us, appears, and within a very short period of time, greenhouse gases shoot up. Nobody knows why, just like they are today, only we know why today, and there's a climate crisis. I thought, wow, isn't that an interesting coincidence? Anyway, enough babbling on. So that's sort of how all this came about. And I think you're going to really enjoy. I hope you will, anyway. So enough. Thank you. I appreciate you watching, and I'll talk to you later. All right. Bye.